Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Real Vision Studios Podcast Center. I'm sitting here with the one and only Mr. Jeff Caffrey, attorney Jeff Caffrey of Resnick and Caffrey, located in Warwick. I've known Jeff for years, but I always do a little homework on our guests. So, Mr. Caffrey grew up in Rhode Island, attended LaSalle Academy, graduated from Bryant College, and was one of the founders of Resnick and Caffrey in 1986. Which, not to date you, my friend, but the first thing that came to mind when I heard that was most attorneys I know, if they've been an attorney for 12 or 15 years, have been with 3 or 4 different law firms or partnerships. What do you think the key has been for you guys working together for that many consecutive years successfully?
Well, 39 years is a really long time to be together, but we seem to work well with each other. Nice ebb and flow between his work and my work, and the fact that we trust each other implicitly.
Very good answer. And what do you think? What do you think the key similarities that you guys have and the differences that you guys have are that enable you to work so well together?
I think one of the similarities we have is we both have a very strong work ethic. So we're both there 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year, and my partner, who's 80, is still doing that. I think what sets us apart is there's an age difference between the two of us, so I'm a little bit more in tune with some of the things that are going on in the market, whereas he's a little bit more old school and a little bit more conservative in the way he views things, but there's a nice ebb and flow.
I grew up with not grew up, but came up in this business with Mr. Bill Fuchs, who I used to joke around with him because he's my good friend. I'd be like, you're like MLS number 9. I'm like 31,004. Now the MLS numbers go up to like 52 or 53,000. But he and Sandy were developing and building and doing all that together before I was born, actually, now that I think about it.
And they're still working together. And it's funny you mentioned that because Sandy's bar number, we all have bar numbers when we pass the bar, is 3 digits, and they're up to like 5 digits now. So
right.
Everybody always thinks it's a typo when he fills out something with his bar number on it. So he's probably not watching the podcast, so I can safely say that.
Right. We can say here, like, we're all young compared to him, at least, you know. Right?
Exactly.
Right.
It's a relative thing.
Yeah. So getting back to the beginning, growing up in Rhode Island, where did you grow up, and did you always know you wanted to be an attorney, or what shaped your decision to go into law?
So I originally was born in North Providence, and I lived there for the first 20 years of my life. Really, I only decided to go to law school in my junior year when I was at Bryant, when I had a feeling that I wasn't quite ready to go into accounting or marketing, which is what my major was. And, I knew a couple of people that had gone to law school. They really seemed to enjoy the process. So it was about that time that I decided to give the law a shot.
You're one of the attorneys. It's interesting you have a marketing background. I did not know that, but it makes sense because you get marketing. Like, it's not something that escapes you as an attorney, the importance of this.
Yeah, going to law school, I always thought, well, just be a good lawyer and that'll be enough to be successful. But nowadays, as with every profession, you have to not only be good at what you do, but you have to get the word out there as to what you do and how proficient you are.
There's a thing I've heard about. It's like my barber, actually, if you look him up, House Call Barber Salon, Josh Mancini. He does great like social media content, but he has like a coach, and he brought in a coach, and they told him that you need to. It's like the 6x4 rule. You need to touch people like 6 times with content across like 4 different platforms. And of course now you're shooting for a younger demographic, like for people like us that are 1 foot in the grave. Like, we can maybe just rely on Facebook a lot because all the old people like us are still on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
But it's getting to be more and more of like the expectation that you have to be in all these different places and you have to position yourself, or people just have no attention span, no memory. They'll almost like forget about you, right?
It's true. And we deal with a lot of realtors and mortgage professionals, and they seem as an industry to be getting younger. So you have to kind of adapt your methods and the way you reach out to people and your message to your market.
I know for us that you're doing a hard money class at our office later on this month.
Correct.
And so is that a big part of your marketing strategy, is the education piece and kind of keeping people in tune with what's going on in the law profession and the different tertiary services that you guys offer?
Sure. One of the things that we think separates us from our competition is the fact that we represent a myriad of different parties, and our private lenders contribute to a large chunk of our practice. And it's something that's really evolved over the years. So probably about half of our practice now is dealing with private. We don't call them hard money lenders. Okay. We call them private lenders.
Private lending. So let's talk about that. As a private lender, tell me more about that business, and for anybody who's not as familiar with private lending, and what do you think separates you guys as an entity that can participate in that venue?
Sure. Well, private lenders are to be differentiated from conventional or institutional lenders, insofar as you're dealing generally with small individuals or small companies, and they don't have underwriting procedures that are etched in stone like so many of the institutional lenders. We're fortunate in that we represent a handful of people that have a substantial amount of assets. So a lot of the private lenders in the market today are starting to run out of money, but we have almost an unlimited pool of funds that we can tap into. And our lenders rely upon us to vet a lot of the deals. So we'll do some of the underwriting for them. We'll do some of the valuation for them. And we've worked with them for so long that there's a lot of trust between us. So if we make a recommendation, invariably, they'll take our recommendation and approve the loan.
And you mentioned hard money private lenders running out of money. I do know that is a thing. What's your average loan size, and what's the kind of max loan size that you guys would look at, or are there set rules on that, or how do you evaluate that?
A lot of it is a case-by-case basis, but I would say the average loan now is probably between $350,000 and $400,000. We've done some private lending. One of my clients has put out over $10 million on one deal. It was a development deal in the mountains. So, I'd like to think that there is a ceiling, but we haven't hit it yet.
So if you got a project bigger than $10 million, they could bring it to you and see if that hits the threshold.
Absolutely. We'd have to be a little bit more conservative with the way we underwrite that versus a multifamily in Providence, but there's always room for future projects.
You guys have fantastic representation in the Spanish market as well, which is really important to us. Our office is, I don't have the exact number, but we got to be 35-40% Hispanic. Yo aprendo español. Yo dice español es no perfecto, pero yo estudio todos los días. Yo practico. Puedo ser mejor como tan antes. I'm getting better.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, so you're impressed, but if you put the subtitles underneath it, it would sound like hot garbage. Be like, why did you just say he fed ice cream to the dog? But you guys do have a great representation in the Spanish market. Tell us a little bit more about that and how you service the Spanish clientele.
Sure. We have an individual who works for us and the markets very heavily in the Hispanic community. And his niche or his product is he puts people together. So he'll take a Hispanic loan officer, put them in touch with the Hispanic mortgage, a real estate agent, and also try and refer them some off-market deals. So rather than, some of the marketplaces, what's it going to cost to get your business? Our model is, let me help you make some money by putting you in touch with people that are successful or that have a product that would benefit you.
I think it's smart. You guys saw that early. This used to be, it still is, it's a melting pot state, but it used to be Italian-Irish state, the politicians, the developers, et cetera, et cetera. You look at the last names of the politicians, you look at the last names of the developers and the people who are revitalizing the city, it's a lot of Hispanic, a lot of Dominican Republic. Like our office is a heavy Dominican Republic office, Puerto Rican, Guatemala, all those places. That's kind of like I see it as the future of our state. So anybody who's missed the bus on that might want to get on the bus. But fortunately for you guys, you started building that department up years and years ago.
It's still a relatively untapped market, but we have two bilingual paralegals on staff, and again, my marketing person who is bilingual. So it's a market that we value, and now we've kind of built up a rapport and have established a relationship with the community. And one thing I've noticed about the Hispanic community is once you make one friend, word passes around.
Your family, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you get invited to different things. I almost feel like part of the family. So.
In the Spanish, they really do have that sense of community and camaraderie. Like every Spanish person I know is pretty much around here as a hard worker, is a person who identifies as an American and loves our country too. But that roots that they have, a lot of people have kind of lost their roots a little bit, I think, in terms of where they're from, where their heritage is, and in all of the Spanish population that I know, it's the same exact thing. And then once you're in, So you and I kind of were like-minded in that regard. in terms of just understanding our demographic, our population, our state. You know, incidentally, who your friends are plays into it as well, especially in our cases. But yeah, it's a great resource. So if people are looking for Spanish friendly, investor friendly, let's talk about development. You guys have been involved in a lot of development, I know, also.
Sure. We take pride in going from dirt to the closing table. So over the years, we've represented a number of developers, and we've probably created well over 300 condominium projects. We've handled subdivision developments of up to 100 to 150 house lots, and take them right through planning department, zoning, town council if they need a zone change. So we've developed that as an adjunct to our practice, and we find it's great because you get the construction loans, and you get the number of units that ordinarily aren't available if you're not handling new construction.
And so, as a resource to your clients, I mean, you're an investor as well. You do a little bit of real estate investing,
A little bit,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's almost like, not to make the Spanish analogy or keep that train going, but it's almost like when you can speak the language a little bit, you don't need to know everything, but it really helps you connect with clients, I would imagine.
Absolutely. We can show that you've been in their shoes and you've done what they're doing. It helps.
Right. So, getting back to core practice and what you see as the challenges right now in the real estate market. What are the things that you see challenging both in the Rhode Island market, in our local market, and in the national markets for real estate?
Well, from my perspective, from the title company and closing attorney perspective, I think everybody's always worried about what's technology going to do to my practice, what's it going to do to the industry, and you hear all these stories about blockchain and AI and how that's going to impact. But I still think there's always going to be room for the individual relationships in this business, and that's kind of what we focus on as a law firm, is to establish a relationship with an individual or a group of individuals, because that, I think, will stand the test of time. So, but the challenges are clearly with the technology that's out there. The tendency is to try and replace those people in the process in order to either streamline things or to save money. But in reality, in my experience at least, it does neither.
You know, I've been telling people this. I find that, like, so obviously AI is like the buzzword of our year. You know what I mean? It's in business. It's like AI, and then you hear people like, my oldest daughter is actually 16, and she's like, "Don't go on ChatGPT. It's evil." Da, 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 da. And I'm like, wow, I would expect to hear that from somebody who's 86 or something like that. But I can see her point at the same time. And then you look at it from a perspective of, they made movies about this, Terminator, things of this nature is what happens. And then a lot of times people will assume that there will be a negative or maybe it's because of watching human nature and how different populations have interacted throughout history and taking each other over, and slavery and different things of this nature, that AI will have this negative impact on humans once it figures out how to outsmart us. And then, it would be just as easy to assume that it will have a benevolent impact. There's a theory called Occam's razor that basically says that, like, you better be nice to AI now and watch how you're talking to ChatGPT so that it remembers you 10 years from now or whatever, right? But I think from a functional standpoint, over the next, like, say 2 to 4 years in business, 2 to 5 years in business, in any kind of business you're in, I think that one thing that anybody who is involved in almost any kind of business needs to take into account is that the first people to get canceled out are the people who, like, work in a job, have zero personality. Like, I know, shout out to your paralegal, Alana, friend of ours, great personality, organized. Alana does like 10 or 12 different things. You can't see in the next 2 years or 3 years, if you're a ChatGPT user, ChatGPT replacing somebody like that. But the person that it could replace is somebody that has that job but has no personality, isn't nice to people, doesn't want to answer the phone, doesn't want to follow up, doesn't connect this to that, doesn't have the social fabric, doesn't bring in additional clients, right? So if you so like my admin, I have a really good admin too. We tease her a lot.
Catherine's
great.
great.
Yeah, Catherine's great. We tease her all the time, and she takes it great, which is another benefit because you got to get it off your chest. Every comedian needs a straight man or whatever, right? So somebody like that, it's harder to replace somebody like that because they They actually show up to work with a human touch. They can do 6 or 7 or 8 different things after a certain point in time, right? So my forewarnment, if that's a word, to anybody out there who's a general worker, right? Like business owners, it's going to take a long time for AI to replace business owners. But for anybody who's like a general worker, you have to kind of check yourself. If your goal is just to go to work at a certain time and get out at a certain time, like those are the people who I think AI is coming for, like quickly. What do you think about that?
I don't disagree with that. We just recently started interviewing for a paralegal again, and the one attribute I mentioned to the young lady before we hired her is I want somebody who cares.
Yeah.
You know, I can train somebody to do what I do, and they can do a very good job, but I can't train somebody to care about their job and to make it a point every day when they come in to start each day with a fresh outlook and to tackle each day as if it's never happened before.
Right.
And that approach, I think the clients appreciate it. And I know as an employer, I appreciate it as well.
Absolutely. I think that's where the value is in, and I always joke around, so you can always tell a good attorney from their paralegal, right? Because that's the one who sets it up, and then you get to show up for the closing and sign the docs, and if everything's lined up, then your job, you kind of rake in the glory or whatever. But
the closer, so to speak.
The closer, yeah. You get to come in and be the closer, and so it's a testament to the staff that you and Sandy have put together and how you manage things. And we're really glad to be in business with you and be able to refer business to you and have done business over the years. And actually, ironically enough, I wasn't going to touch on this, but it dawned on me. You and I actually sat down in one particular circumstance where we were on opposite teams before too. And so one comment I could make to you, less of a question than a comment, is that I actually really respected the way you handled that situation.
I appreciate that.
Because you got to see how somebody was when I was showing up at your office with a problem and your client was the other party, without getting into explicit details. And it all settled itself. We never had to go to court. My track record of never having been in a lawsuit is
still intact.
And I just think that it was a testament to you as an attorney. All right, so let's talk about this before we wrap up. Let's talk about this hard money class we have coming up on July 24th here at 843 Reservoir Avenue, sponsored by Resnick and Caffrey, obviously, as well as Primary Residential Services, PRMI. Let's talk about that class.
Sure. So what I want to show people is, first of all, the products that are out there. And, there's some similarity between the lenders, but there's also some differences. Down payment requirements, pricing, terms, things of that nature. And also to let people know that there are other ways of doing it. A lot of people say, well, I don't have 20% as a down payment. I'm not going to be eligible to get a private loan. But we work with some lenders who will take additional collateral. They'll take a second mortgage on another investment property you have. So there are options out there that you may not be aware of, or that your clients may not be aware of, that we want to point out to them. So, and if you're willing to look at things from a different perspective, sometimes you can get creative and put a deal together, even when you least expect it.
My first ever hard money lender actually told me that he lent on the bus rule. And I said, what's the bus rule? And he said, well, if you get hit by a bus, what do I get?
I like that.
So it's a little bit more complicated, I'm sure, than the bus rule, but it's going to be a great class for anybody listening in the real estate community or outside of it, interested in investing, interested in becoming an agent. We're going to be having education like this with Mr. Caffrey and multiple other, different subject matter experts over the course of the summer into the fall. We're not taking the summer off here at Real Vision Properties. So we invite you all to pull up for the class. We'll get details on the time. I believe it's 3:30 in the afternoon, right?
I thought it was earlier in the day.
Okay.
Was it like a lunch and
We'll drop the time in the comments since I didn't have my stuff prepared today. But Jeff, for anybody watching the podcast, how would they get in touch with you? Where would they find you on the internet? Where would they, website, phone number, all that kind of stuff?
Thank you. Yeah, my website is resnickandcaffreypc.com. My phone number is area code 401-738-4500. And, we're always available for any questions that you may have. Email is jcaffrey@resnickandcaffrey.com as well. So, I look forward to hearing from your listeners. and I certainly appreciate the business that you and Jeff and your agents have sent to us.
Absolutely. We appreciate you, everything you do for the developers, the investors, the Spanish market, the regular old first-time home buyers and sellers. Look forward to many years of a successful continued relationship, and thank you for coming on the show today. Hope you can make it again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Welcome.